Okay, everybody, let's find a seat and let's get this going. Be respectful of everybody's time. I know a way to do this. Will you all please join me in prayer?
I like it.
Lord, it is fitting that we thank you for every breath we take, for creating us out of nothing and yet loving us as if we were everything. And Lord, help us to fully understand what it means to be a watchman on the wall, to be a shepherd, to be someone who volunteers to carry the weight of others on their shoulders. You remind us repeatedly that doing so is a high calling. And whether we wear a robe, a badge, or body armor, the weight of that responsibility is equal. And always keep us mindful that we could not carry ourselves a single step without you, that those who serve you need your strength, your discernment, your protection. We ask that you guide us in this and in every endeavor, and it is in your name we pray. Amen. All right, if you'll join me with a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and really quick, I want to thank my county executive committee for all the work they've been doing to set up these forums, our monthly reports, the mix and mingles, the galas, the PAC filings, and specifically want to thank our Vice Chairman, Brandon Bell, for all his work tonight in particular. And one of the things I have enjoyed most about these evenings has been our really creative choice of moderators. I am honored to get to introduce John Harris. He's an attorney that's been practicing law and serving our community since 1986. He is a respected and recognized litigant at all levels from here to the Supreme Court of Tennessee, as well as nationally in the Supreme Court in Washington. We are blessed to have such a champion, a teacher, a litigator, and an advocate who helps to protect and defend Second Amendment rights against every red flag and federal encroachment that comes down the pike. He is the executive director of the Tennessee Firearms Association, and if you're not a member of the TFA or a supporter, what the heck? Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, John Harris.
Thank you, Tracy, and as well, Brandon, for inviting me to be your moderator tonight. You're actually going to hear very little from me other than efforts to read without my East Nashville slang the questions that your committee has put together. We've got quite a few of them that we're going to try to get through in about an hour's time. So a couple of just brief announcements. I'm going to be using their first names tonight instead of offices and titles and retired. We're just going to go on a first name basis. The second thing is I'm going to ask you to please hold your applause. Please hold your heckling. And until you get outside, no celebratory gunfire. Because I want to maximize the amount of time that these candidates have to speak with you, and that's why you're here tonight. You want to hear what they have to say in response to the questions that have been put together. So with that said, the third point is we are going roughly an hour. The monitors will show you for each speaker how much time they have. Generally, they're going to get a minute apiece without rebuttals. There's a couple of questions that are sufficiently important that the committee has chosen to allow them 2 minutes to speak. So with that said, I'm going to start off with Jeff with the first question. And
introductions.
Okay. See, I'm in a hurry now to get right to the meat of this. So, Jeff, if you would, I think you've got 2 minutes, correct?
Correct.
So 2 minutes to introduce yourself to the forum.
Thank you. What a great looking crowd out here. Good evening, friends and fellow Republicans. I'm Jeff Hughes. I'd like to begin by thanking the Williamson County GOP for their commitment to the citizens of Williamson County to ensure that they have an informed choice when selecting the most qualified and experienced candidate for sheriff. Thank you to John Harris for lending his talents tonight. Thank you to the folks in the audience and those online for this opportunity to share my history and vision. It's no secret that violent crime looms at our doorstep. The threats are real, and unless we stand resolute against the evils, I fear we may succumb. I'm a fourth-generation resident of Williamson County. I've dedicated my life to public service, having spent nearly 40 years in law enforcement. I started my career at the Fairview Police Department in 1983, and I moved over to the Brentwood Police Department on February the 1st, 1986, 38 years ago today. As I rose through the ranks, I served at every role, including patrol and investigations. I spent the majority of my career in police administration, the last 10 years as chief of police. As chief, every decision, every policy, every outcome fell on my shoulders. Although it was heavy at times, I never wavered from making tough decisions. I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm not afraid to take a stand. And I'm confident that this experience has prepared me for becoming the next sheriff of Williamson County. Geographically, Brentwood is on the edge of Nashville, Davidson County, on the north. Violent criminals primarily use I-65 to come into Williamson County. As the first line of defense, Brentwood was consistently ranked as one of the safest cities in the United States by multiple sources. That didn't happen by chance. I believe that Williamson County's low crime rates are in part to the policies, procedures, patrol tactics, investigative expertise, and overall culture that I helped build at the Brentwood Police Department.
Thank you. 2
I
minutes.
know we
are up.
can do the same for Williamson County.
Mark, you've got 2 minutes for your introduction.
I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for coming out here tonight, and I thank the organizers of this event. Special thanks to our moderator tonight, Mr. John Harris. The Williamson County Sheriff's Office is the largest law enforcement organization in the county. The men and women serve our citizens in many areas every day through patrolling our neighborhoods, protecting our schools, serving process for our court system, maintaining our detention facility, and our investigations. Those men and women keep our community safe. As you know, our county has grown immensely over the past 25 years. I have watched this growth through the lens of serving this community in many different positions within the Sheriff's Office. There is no doubt our county will continue to grow in the years to come. With that fact, our Sheriff's Office will need to continue to grow as well. When elected, it would be my goal to not only grow the Sheriff's Office, but to create an environment that serves this county best. It is time for strong leadership to bring change to this very important agency. It is time for us to fix the issues that face us today in law enforcement. We need the very best deputies to serve this community. I want to continue to work closely with the County Commission to create a fair pay scale that helps us to compete with other law enforcement agencies for the very best professionals law enforcement has to offer. Employee retention has been an issue for the Sheriff's Office, and I believe I have the best understanding of how to remedy that. Along with competitive pay and benefits, we need to increase our professional standards and our training. To best protect our county, we need the best trained and equipped men and women wearing the uniform of the Williamson County Sheriff's Office. Change is often hard, and it takes time to understand fully what the right changes are. I have 26 years with the Sheriff's Office. I know exactly what changes are needed, and I can begin that process on day one.
Thank you. Darren, 2 minutes.
Hey, my name is Darren Barnes. I want to thank everybody for having us here tonight. I want to thank the moderator, and I want to thank those of you that showed up just because you want to hear what we have to say. This is one of the most important offices, in my opinion, in the county, and it's something that needs to be taken seriously, especially at the growth rate that we're experiencing. So a little bit about me. I'm a lifelong resident of Williamson County. I'm fifth generation. I've had 37 years of experience in emergency services. I started with the Williamson County Rescue Squad when I was 17 in 1987. In 1993, I was hired by the Franklin Police Department. I worked for the Franklin Police Department for 27 years. And in 2007, I was selected to be a part of the FBI's Violent Crime and Gang Task Force, where I did that for 12 years. In 2019, I decided that I was going to retire from Franklin and take my pension, and I moved to the Williamson County Sheriff's Office where I work now. During my time, especially with the FBI Task Force, I gained a lot of experience and experienced a lot of things that just aren't experienced here in Williamson County. I'm the recipient of 2 U.S. Attorney Awards, Law Enforcement and Excellence in Middle Tennessee, and then one in the District of Connecticut. I received a Hope Award. We did a search warrant on a house. I noticed the house was hot. I went to a local store, had an air conditioner donated, and me and a friend of mine put it in. One of the reasons that I'm running for sheriff is because I am concerned about the safety and security of the citizens of Williamson County. I don't think we train well enough for any potential problems that may arise. I appreciate your support.
So first, substantive question. I'll start back with Jeff. What do you see as the top challenges facing the Williamson County Sheriff's Department?
In my opinion, that's going to be recruitment and retention. As I understand it, the Sheriff's Department is currently about a third of their force down. In other words, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 80 personnel. We have that's just unheard of. And you know, that's bigger than most police departments in our county. And to me, that is a sign of leadership. That's a sign of cultural issues. And I have a proven strategy that promotes recruitment and retention. And that would be my priority. We have to have more people on the street. We have to have a high visibility and presence in our neighborhoods. There's a long list of priorities, but I think that's first and foremost. Thank you.
Mark, what do you see as the top challenges facing the Williamson County Sheriff's Department?
So hiring and retention is part of that. We have a very good agency. We're not quite as short as some of the numbers. One of the biggest difficulties that faces a sheriff's office is we have our county jail, and nobody wants to work in that county jail. It's the toughest job that we have. To get young men and women interested in doing that, they're looking for that law enforcement aspect of it at the end of the day. And, hiring people has become difficult. It's not just the sheriff's office, it's agencies across the state, across the nation. It's came down to a matter of money. We have made some adjustments in the past few years with money within the sheriff's office. And we have hired several people here in the last few weeks. I think our total number down, not counting crossing guards, is about 24 that we're shy in the sheriff's office today. That's a big thing. That's something we've been working on and something I can intend to continue to work on.
Darren, what would you see as the top challenges facing the Williamson County Sheriff's Department?
Well, obviously, I agree with my other two partners here. Recruitment and retention are right now probably the most important thing that we need to try to take care of at the sheriff's office. But I think that the problem is much bigger than that. I think that there are morale issues that need to be improved. The training is extremely important. I think that we need to really concentrate on training our people to take our place. We need to train leaders. And I do believe that there is a little bit of a problem with kingdom building at the sheriff's office as far as I don't think that the upper management doesn't allow the first line supervisors to do their job effectively and efficiently. And I think that if you work on that, then you'll see the numbers go up, and we need to be the best in the state.
Thank you. Next question. we'll start with Mark on this one. Describe what your approach would be to crime fighting and what resources would you need to be successful in that pursuit?
So, crime fighting in Williamson County, we are a transient crime county. Most of the crime does not originate within the county. It's people coming in from other places, traveling through. And a lot of things that we've already put in place and things that we'll do in the future. And I'll use narcotics as an example. We have a lot of drugs that move through our county up and down 65, back and forth across I-840 as well as I-40. And one thing that we've been using is technology with a lot of those. We just did a roundup here recently where we arrested 10 people for fentanyl and other things that were coming into the county. And the one thing that I want to see is that criminals that are bringing things into Williamson County, they think twice before they come here, that they may be dealing with one of our deputies, one of our narcotics officers when it comes to drugs and other crime, that Williamson County is not the place to come.
Darren, the same question. Describe what your approach would be to crime fighting and what resources would you need to be successful?
Well, the one thing I would like to do is I would like to get with the other agencies that are within the county, the other police departments, and work with those guys and share resources, train together. And I think that Mark is right as far as a lot of our crime comes from other places. I would say that the majority of the people that are in our jail aren't from Williamson County, which is a problem. We need to make it to where the criminals don't want to be here. And it used to be that way when I was a young patrol officer. People didn't want to come south of Old Hickory Boulevard. We need to work with the district attorney's office and the judges to do that again. We need to be harder on crime than we have been. And we need to prepare for the worst. We need to hope for the best, but train for the worst. And that's something that I think is really important.
And Jeff, what would your approach be to crime fighting and what resources would you need to be successful?
Touched on it in my opening comment, but I believe we have to put more deputies on the street. We got to get them out of the office. We got to put them back on the road where it matters, out there where the rubber meets the road, where the crime's happening. Obviously, we know we got to address that through recruitment and retention, right? But we can't be heavy with administrative folks sitting around the office, right? So that's first and foremost. I think that we can also employ and use technology, state-of-the-art technology. We can work smarter, not harder. And I'm talking about things like LPRs, license plate recognition systems, and things of that sort to help fight crime. I believe that we need to partner with our citizens and work closely with them through neighborhood watch programs, through citizens police academies. We can't do this alone. We have to have our citizenry to help us. And then finally, I would just say that we need to, work hard to build those relationships with our local, our state, and our federal partners to combat the crime as a whole.
Thank you. Now, the next question that the committee put together, each of you have actually talked about it as one of the priorities, but you're going to get 2 minutes to expand on it. So, Darren, starting with you, we've already talked about the headcount deficit. You've got 2 minutes to explain how you would, as the next sheriff, attract and retain officers in Williamson County.
So right now, I've checked into some of the other agencies, and it starts with the little stuff. Like, for an example, Franklin Police Department, a 1 to 3 year employee gets 10 hours vacation time a month. At 4 years, they go up to, I think, 12 hours a month. I get 6.66 hours a month as a new employee at the sheriff's office, which I wish the county commission would consider changing that number because I just don't like it. 6.67 would be fine. I think it starts with the little stuff like that. I think that the pay has to be considered. I'd mentioned earlier that I think that the Williamson County Sheriff's Office should be the best agency in the state. We could be the best agency in the state. Unfortunately, we're not even the best agency in the county. We have to compete with those that are immediately around us before we can do that with agencies outside of our county limits. I think another thing is that you really, the new generation, and I've explained this way to people before, is that when I was a young patrol guy, you could holler at me as my supervisor and send me out to the street, and by the time I got to the door, I forgot about it because I really like being the police. The younger generation just isn't like that today. And I'm not saying that we have to cater to the younger generation, but we better consider them, because if we don't, they're going to go somewhere else. So we have to recruit. That's the other thing. I've got 14 seconds. So we have to recruit. We have to get out and we have to visit military bases. We have to visit colleges. We have to visit high schools. We don't do any of that stuff right now, which is really important because these other agencies around us are.
And Jeff, what, on that same topic, would you do as sheriff to attract and retain officers?
It starts with changing the culture from within. I have proven strategies to accomplish this. We have a number of things that we can look at. Pay is just one of them, right? That's not that's not even on the top of the list when you talk to employees about job satisfaction. I'm sorry. We've got to look at a classification plan. We got to look at the compression issues. We got to look at merit-based performance raises. The highest performer and the lowest performer right now get the same raise, regardless of the job they do. So you're dragging your highest performer down to your lowest performer, not vice versa. That's a huge problem. You've got to take the focus off of the self and put it back where it belongs. And the focus needs to be on the service to the public. And you have to recognize good work. We have to be accountable. If we mess up, if we stub our toe, we'll be accountable, we'll address it, and we'll move on. But we need to recognize good work, and we need to reward that through merit-based salaries. I have implemented numerous things to start that trend, to change that culture from within. But to do that, you have to make your department attractable for people to come to, not for people, highly qualified, experienced deputies, to leave the Williamson County Sheriff's Department to go to other agencies within our county and the Tennessee Highway Patrol. That's not acceptable. Why is that? Why are they leaving our agency or leaving the Williamson County Sheriff's Department to go to other agencies? That's a cultural problem. That's a leadership problem. They need good, solid leadership in place that promotes fairness and consistency, that builds trust and respect within the organization, and that will start to turn your culture.
Thank you. And Mark, what would you do as the next sheriff to attract and retain officers?
You know, within a sheriff's office, things are just a little bit different than they are within a police department. You know, growing up, kids want to be firemen. They want to be policemen. They don't want to be a corrections officer. They do not want to work in that jail. They all want that law enforcement position. And when we think about the people that we have lost in the past from the sheriff's office going to other agencies, a lot of those have came out of our corrections division. They're the ones that they're doing a job that they know that they need to do to get to where they want to go, and now they've had that opportunity going somewhere else. We could, tomorrow at the sheriff's office, start hiring people directly into a law enforcement position and neglect the jail. We could fill up every spot that we have open in law enforcement side of what the sheriff's office does, but we would have people quitting left and right in the jail because that's what they're there for. That's their hopes, that's their dreams, that's their desires. We have a good culture within the sheriff's office. We have good employees that are there. They're out working and doing the job every day. I cannot say enough about the men and women at the sheriff's office, both law enforcement and civilian, that come in and do those jobs. As far as recruiting and attracting, you know, money is a big part of that. We have a very good agency. Have been working with the county commission on some pay studies, looking at different things to combat our compression. But it's a county-wide issue. It's not necessarily just the sheriff's office. It's something that it's going to take everybody working together to be able to correct a problem that has been in place for many, many, many years. It's not an overnight fix. It's something that we have been working on since 2021, I think, was when we made that adjustment, or 2022. I'm not sure which one, but it's all in the works and things that we're working on and doing.
So this question, we circle back, starting with Jeff. The juvenile justice jail is a major project for the next sheriff. It's a new county jail, juvenile center, and judicial building with an estimated price tag of $300 million, and critics have labeled it costly at $250,000 per inmate. So you've got 2 minutes on this question. Do you agree with the scope of the juvenile justice jail proposal, and how would you manage the project to ensure taxpayer dollars are responsibly used?
The short answer is no, I do not agree with it. As a Williamson County taxpayer, I have a vested interest in this. I don't want my property taxes going up. Citizens don't want their property taxes going up. We have to explore options that are more fiscally responsible. I built a police building in Brentwood. I'm the only candidate up here that's had that experience. We had a $30 million budget to build a state-of-the-art police department in Brentwood. The budget was $30 million. We did it under budget. We came in at $29 million, and we have everything that we need to sustain this department for the next 30 years, including an indoor firing range. I don't understand, and I have a hard time comprehending how Lewis County can build a jail at a cost of about $49,000 per inmate compared to the projected cost of the jail, which I understand to be about $188 million, at a cost of $250,000 per inmate. That's 5 times the cost. So where have they saved money that Williamson County has not realized? I just think that there have to be other options explored. I think that there have to be questions asked, and I think that we need to study this much harder than maybe what we have to this point. I haven't been involved in that process, but I would welcome the opportunity to have an opportunity to look at what we could do differently.
Mark, I'm not going to repeat the primary statement, but the questions are, do you agree with the scope of the Triple J project as proposed? And how would you manage the project to ensure taxpayer dollars are responsibly used?
So, in part, answering that question with the county jail, this was a part of the Public Building Authority project that the county came up with as a target that they needed to improve upon. Consultants came in that were hired by the county that looked at the operations of our jail, looked at the process of not only what we've done here in Williamson County, but what other counties have done. Those plans were drawn up, a lot of reviews, a lot of meetings, a lot of sitting down, talking about all of that information. And there's the Tennessee Correctional Institute, known as the TCI. TCI is a state governing body of jails in the state of Tennessee, and they have minimum standards. This jail has been designed to those minimum standards. Is it a large price tag? It's a very large price tag. And we have gone through those plans, and we have cut out everything to make that jail the minimum standard, to meet the minimum standards of the state of Tennessee. One thing that, part of it that's ran that cost up is this is a building that they're projecting out 40 years. And it's built in phases to cover the growth of inmates within Williamson County. It's a large price tag. As far as the sheriff's office goes, we've cut everything that we possibly can to meet those minimum standards. The design concepts, the way that building will be built is not our decision to make. That's the decision of the consultants and everybody that's came in working with the county on this project. We've cut out all sorts of things, from coffee bars for the inmates to diaper changing rooms in the cells part of the jail as well. Things that doesn't make sense to me, but they were in those original plans. And we've worked hard to kick that number down. And, I don't know what the answer is. We could build it for another 10 years or 20 years. instead of going out 40, but, that's the numbers that we've been given.
Thank you. And Darren, do you agree with the scope of the Triple J project as proposed? And how would you manage the project to ensure taxpayer dollars are responsibly used?
So from some conversations I've had with people, I don't think I do. I think that I would have to look at it more. One thing that I'm concerned about when I talk about this project is the location. I've been told that the jail that we have now, the location that it's at, has some damage from blasting. Now, we need a jail. We need a new facility. There's no doubt about that. There's a part of me that thinks that we just threw money at something without even considering a lot of things, to be honest with you. One thing that the location is a problem. I know that people don't want a jail in their backyards, but it's a big county. We got plenty. We got to have more options than just where it's at now. I would want to get with some of the other counties. Davidson County just built a fairly nice jail, and from my understanding, their budget was substantially less than what we're building it for. But it's a bigger county. I'm not sure if that's because we tried to take three things together and do it all at the same time. I would want to know individually what the costs are. So I'd want to get with the sheriff, Darren Hall, in Davidson County and find out what worked for them, what didn't work for them. Like Jeff said, Lewis County, I didn't know they built a jail, but that's another option we can get with, even though I would think that Williamson County is substantially bigger than Lewis County. That's probably why they came in at so much under budget like they did. But no, so I don't agree with the way it is now. We do need a new jail, but I think that it's going to take some more homework and some more discussion to figure out how to get it what we need.
Thank you. So we're switching back to 1 minute per response, and Mark, we'll start with you as the first victim on this one. What is your view of a centralized sheriff's office versus one that is decentralized and has satellite locations in unincorporated areas of the county?
I don't think that the county has grown to the point for decentralized. One thing that we learned during COVID was that a lot of calls we're able to take via telephone. And we have a lot of calls that we handle like that. Each and every one of our patrol vehicles is equipped with a computer, MDT terminal. All the paperwork, all the reports and everything are done in there. When I think about Davidson County, and I know they have stations scattered all over Metro Nashville based on their population, that's another building that needs to be built. That's another building that needs to be staffed with personnel. And at this point in time, I don't think that that's a top priority for the sheriff's office as far as day-to-day operations. I think we cover those calls and handle that stuff relatively well. With the technology and other things out there, we can do things without a building per se.
Thank you. Darren, what is your view of a centralized sheriff's office versus one that has decentralized satellite locations in the unincorporated areas of the county?
So I think that I think Mark's right to a point that even though we are growing at a very quick rate, I think what we have now is okay. What I'd like to see, though, is we've got a number of volunteer fire departments, and I don't know why we couldn't use those as substations, a place to where we could put a desktop computer. The deputies can go in there and do their reports. And just have a place to be for a minute. I think that right now the problem is that the supervisors at the sheriff's office, they don't let the deputies do their jobs. And what I mean by that is, like we have a records clerk, and she takes a lot of the responsibility from the deputies, which sometimes it doesn't get done for a while, but that's a lot of responsibility for one person. And I'm running out of time, so I can't expand on that, but I think substations would be good.
Thank you. And Jeff, what is your view of a centralized sheriff's office versus one that has decentralized satellite locations in the unincorporated areas of the county?
I think it's a good idea to decentralize. This is a very large county. And if you think about the time that it takes to drive from one end to the other, north to south, east to west, you're talking about a lot of area to cover. You're talking about a lot of time to cover. It makes no sense to me that we start at Century Court here in Franklin to deploy our resources from one central location. I think it would be much better and much more effective to spread those resources out. And I'm talking about personnel and equipment, and have them available in different parts of the county. And I think it would promote community-oriented policing. I think if you put those substations out in the county, I think it would allow deputies to get to know their citizens better. I also think that we learned in COVID that a lot of things can be done remotely using Zoom and technology like that. So I think the opportunity exists, and I think it's a good idea.
Thank you. Next question, Darren, we'll start with you. How best can the sheriff's office coverage keep pace with the estimated population growth in the county?
Until we get the recruitment and retention problem taken care of, that's a hard problem to deal with. So a lot of the zones in the county are huge. I don't know if you guys know that, but there's one deputy in each of the zones, which is not acceptable. Now, I will say that, you know, you have Franklin, you have Brentwood, you have Spring Hill, and there's officers that cover that area, but there's still a lot of county and unincorporated parts out there. We've got to hire more deputies to be on the street. I would like to hire either part-time or contracted positions to take reports over the telephone, or you know, just the simple task like that, and that would free up our deputies where they could work. And I'm talking about using, you know, retired officers that just want something to do. So that's one way that I would look at it.
Thank you. And Jeff, how best can the sheriff's office coverage keep pace with the estimated population growth in the county, in your opinion?
Well, the simple answer is we've got to put more deputies on the street, right? We've got to focus on response times. We've got to have more than one deputy in a zone at any given time. I was recently told about a situation in the county where volunteers, I think they were volunteer firemen, had to come to the aid of a deputy who was in need of backup, and the closest backup was 20 or 30 minutes away, and that's an officer safety issue. I believe that we can do this by beefing up our reserve program. We have some very dedicated and qualified reserve personnel, and I think that we can beef them up and utilize them to help in this regard. But we need to incentivize them and give them a reason to want to do this, whether it be through compensation or whether it be through some kind of benefits. I think that would help tremendously in the short term, especially with staffing.
Mark, how best can the sheriff's office coverage keep pace with the estimated population growth in the county?
Well, it's already been discussed, personnel, adding those personnel, and you know, each shift in the sheriff's office currently has between 11 and 13 deputies that are on the road patrolling. We're divided into 5 zones, so most of the time during the daytime, we'll have 2 to 3 deputies in these zones answering calls. You know, as the county grows, we're going to have to add personnel to that. We have a very robust reserve division that does support all aspects within the sheriff's office, from the jail to the courthouse, every place but the schools, and that's a law on that you know, SROs have to be differently trained than the reserves can have. It's a full-time law enforcement thing. You know, the guys do the job. They're out and about. They're doing what they need to do, and you know, it all boils down at the end of the day of getting those personnel. And, you know, I think once we get those numbers up and we kind of can tell where we're at and where we need to be going, you know, those personnel will come.
Thank you. Next question, Jeff. 1 minute. How do you rate the department's existing community outreach programs, and what, if anything, would you do differently?
All right, I've been off the grid for about 2 years now. As I said, I retired 2 years ago, the end of this month. I'm not familiar with what the sheriff department currently does with their outreach programs. But I know what we need to do, and I'm not sure what is actually being done now, but I referenced it earlier. I think we have to partner with our citizens. We have to partner with community groups. I think the public, the citizenry, they want to engage with us. They want to support us, but they need to have an agency that they respect and that they are proud of, and I think that we can build that through things like neighborhood watch programs, things like citizens police academies. There's a lot of room for community outreach, and I'm willing to explore any and everything to that regard.
Thank you. Mark, how do you rate the department's community outreach programs, and what, if anything, would you do differently?
You know, we have a neighborhood watch system in place within the county, and I think that, you know, one of the biggest things that we start with the community outreach is with the schools, with our school resource officers. They're with the families, they're with the children, and it expands outward from there. We do a Citizens Academy. Matter of fact, one is started at 6 o'clock tonight. I think it's the third week of that program. You know, the community involvement, you know, starts with, like I said, with the SROs. It runs through patrol. You know, the patrol guys are in the communities. They're in the neighborhoods. You know, they stop at the church socials and the ball games and get out and get involved in the community. And that's something that we're going to continue to do and expand upon where we can. You know, the sheriff's office is the community's office. It's not just a law enforcement. You know, we are part of the community, and we're going to remain part of the community. And we want to be there to help and be there to answer those questions and to, you know, lend a helping hand.
Thank you. And Darren, how do you rate the department's community outreach programs, and what would you do differently?
Well, I would start by creating a community outreach program. We have one deputy right now that falls under the school resource, and I don't really understand why it's made up the way it is. So we have a crime prevention division that has one deputy that's attached to the school resource officers. And he goes out and he does neighborhood watch, from what I understand, and he hands out Don't Litter Tennessee paraphernalia. That's not effective. What I'd like to do, or like I mentioned earlier, is with the part-time and the contracted positions with the FBI, I've talked to FBI agents that are retired that would be more than happy to do it. We got the FOP locally that has a bunch of retired members. Go out into the community, to retirement homes, to these different places, and teach people not to be victims of, like, fraud, for example, which is one of our most investigated crimes that we have.
Thank you.
I understand. Sorry.
Next question. Mark, what do you see as the biggest threat to law enforcement today? 1 minute.
Biggest threat to law enforcement today. You know, it's such a vast, you know, gamut of things. I don't know that 1 minute can answer all of those. You know, more organized crime, gangs, we're getting more and more of that in our surrounding areas. Fortunately, we haven't had a lot of that here in Williamson County. You know, I think everything's getting more violent no matter where you look or how you look. You know, to put it down to one specific situation, I'm not sure exactly what that would be. You know, drugs is a big thing. You know, everybody wants to get away from the police. I think that the, you know, the defund movement and just the thought process of criminals today is that I can get away with whatever I want and I can do anything that I want to do to be able to get away from law enforcement. They're not going to chase us. You know, they're not going, you know, if we do something crazy, they're not going to do something crazy behind us. You know, so it's the thought process behind criminals that's changed so much.
Thank you. Darren, what do you see as the biggest threat to law enforcement today?
Well, just one example. I think that probably one of the biggest threats in law enforcement, and specifically this county here, is training and preparation. And I'll give you an example. We had, back a few years ago during the Defund the Police movement, we had a protest or a demonstration in Franklin. There was rumored that they were going to walk up Main Street to the square. And this is around the time that people were burning the courthouse in Nashville and just committing acts of violence, right? So there was this concern about it. So the sheriff's office decided to take all the SROs and most of the patrol guys, which I understand that, and train them for riot control and crowd control techniques the day of this problem. Well, that's not going to be, that's obviously not effective and it's not efficient. What I would like to do is I'd like to create a team that's countywide, if the other agencies will do it, to train on that once a month or once every other month. But training and preparation are definitely at the top of my list.
Jeff, what do you see as the biggest threat to law enforcement today?
I think it's three things. I think violent crime obviously looms at our doorstep, as I said in my opening statement. I think drugs, particularly fentanyl, and how dangerous that is, just to be exposed to it by touch is a tremendous threat. And I think that active shooters are rapidly deploying situations involving active shooters are a huge threat. We saw that at Covenant, right? We have to train to the trend. You know, traditionally we trained SWAT activities and SWAT strategies. And we don't see many barricaded suspects nowadays. We don't see as many hostage situations. We need to be able to train and equip our deputies to respond rapidly to situations that are evolving quickly so that we can neutralize and stop the threat.
Thank you. Darren, next question comes your way first. Are there any state laws that you see as a weakness as it relates to the sheriff's department? And if so, what would your solution be?
That's a hard question because there's a lot that might apply to that. You know, I would think probably some of the gun laws is what I would say. I would say that right now Tennessee is not a constitutional carry state. I think that it should be. I think I've heard it referred to as a permitless carry state or something like that. Anyway, so I think that we need laws. Do I have 2 minutes or 1 minute?
2 minutes on this
Okay.
one.
Sorry, I just looked up. But anyway, I do think that that's important. There are laws right now that I think, from what I understand, is all they do is provide a defense. We actually need laws to help good citizens that are arming themselves to protect themselves. I think that's extremely important. I don't know. I think that being able to protect yourself is one of the most important rights that we have, and that's about all I got to say about that.
Okay, Jeff, are there any state laws that you believe are a weakness as it relates to the sheriff's department, and what would your solution be?
I believe this is one thing that sets me apart from my opponents is I've had extensive experience in dealing with our legislators. I have lobbied at the state legislator level. I have testified before the state legislator. I have worked with them on drafting language for bills that are to become law. I've worked with my peers across the state to develop policies as it relates to use of force, de-escalation, and best practices for law enforcement in general. I've lobbied at the national level for the safety of our children. There are a lot of laws that prohibit and restrict our ability to be effective. The majority of our time is spent trying to defeat bad bills, not promote good bills. And that's unfortunate because we're trying to keep the unintended consequences from becoming law. And I'm talking about asset forfeiture. We constantly are fighting asset forfeiture laws. We're constantly fighting medical marijuana, bills. We don't want to go through what Colorado has went through and these other states that have legalized marijuana. It brings more problems on us as law enforcement. So there are lots of laws that I think restrict us. Those are just a couple. I have the experience in doing that, and I look forward to the opportunity to work collaboratively with our legislators, again, to make good law.
Mark, are there any examples of state laws that you see as a weakness as it relates to the sheriff's department, and what would your solution be?
I have too, over the years, spent some time on Capitol Hill working with our representatives and our legislatures in different laws that are on the books, things that need to be worked with, things that need to be changed. Second Amendment is always a big part of that, with the enhanced carry permit, I believe is what it's called in the state of Tennessee. That changed a lot of things to where if you can legally own and possess a firearm, you can carry one, or a handgun. You can carry that handgun. And I think, to me, that's a step in the right direction, giving our citizens the right to, carry a firearm and be able to do that. I had a man ask me when that law was in the process of passing how that would affect law enforcement. Of them, anybody could, if you could own the gun, you could have the gun in your vehicle. You could have it on your person without a handgun carry permit. And, my answer was, 26 years, 25 years of law enforcement, I've always assumed everybody was armed. And, that didn't make it any different. The law allows it, allow the law to do it. Like Jeff was saying, we've got, the legalized marijuana bills, everything else. It seems like we are fighting more for, keeping new things from coming in than dealing with other ones that are on the books. But I think that, through collaboration, through working with each other, for building those partnerships and having those discussions, with our representatives, with our senators, with our Congress, with our legislators as a whole, and having those conversations about, here are these problems, here are those problems. Both the sheriffs in the state of Tennessee and the chiefs of police in the state of Tennessee have their own associations. Those associations work together. They have people that look at these laws and what will make our lives easier as law enforcement and therefore as citizens, but make it better for everybody. It's an ongoing process, and it's not a one person that's going to be able to pull that off.
Thank you. Jeff, next question. Should the sheriff's office provide medical services to inmates with mental health issues? Why or why not?
Well, I think this is a really hot topic, and going back to the jail, we're projecting this new jail to have a capacity 3 times the size of what our existing jail is, and I think our focus is on the wrong thing. If the old movie Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. Well, we're not trying to welcome you into our jails. We don't need to expand our jail and increase the size by multiply that by 3. What we need to do is work with our legislators to divert these people with mental illnesses into a facility that can give them the care that they need to rehabilitate them. Let's keep the bad people in jail, and let's do something with the sick people to get them where they need to be. And that's going to take a collaborative effort with our legislators. I know it's a money issue. I get that. When they've got nowhere else to go, they send them to jail. That's a solution to get that population down.
Mark, should the sheriff's office provide medical services to inmates with mental illness? Why or why not?
Well, I want to agree with Jeff on this one. Amazing, isn't it? It's part of the process. Once again, I spoke earlier about the Tennessee Correctional Institute and what the standards are of jails. As a jail, we have to provide that medical care. We have to provide dental care. We have to provide that psychiatric care as well, to the best of what the jail's capable of doing, and with outside doctors. It is a problem and it is an issue. It's unfortunate that the way the laws are today, and this kind of goes back to the previous question, the way the laws are today, it does kind of get dumped in the sheriff's lap. There's several different police departments in this county, but there's only one county jail. So everybody comes to that one location. Laws need to be changed. It is a mental health issue. I'd say that, between mental health and drugs, that's the biggest challenges we face inside a correctional facility are those two things. And getting that proper help to those people is important, and something that it's going to take everybody working on to make happen.
Darren, should the sheriff's office provide medical services to inmates with mental illnesses? Why or why not?
So, yes, to answer your question, we should provide medical help to people with mental illness. back many years ago, there were mental health institutions, and they did away with them because they didn't want people institutionalized. Okay? Now, I don't agree with everything that happened in these institutions, but now we're putting them in a jail or a prison. Well, what is that? That's an institution, right? So, but we're putting them in there with people that can take advantage of them or try to control them or whatever. So, yes, we do. And I've dealt with people before. I think a lot of the problem with that, I'm really disappointed in our mental health system, our professionals that are supposed to take care of these people. I've had people turned away because they didn't have insurance, okay? But what I would like to do is, that's very important to me. I would like to work with some mental health professionals in the county to try to come up with some kind of solution on how to best help these people that need the help.
Mark, if the state or federal government imposes a vaccine mandate on Williamson County citizens, how would you respond as sheriff to that mandate?
It's an individual choice. That's left up to the individual himself, that person, to make that decision if they want to have that shot, if they don't want to have that shot. As the question is the sheriff's office or is I as sheriff going to force somebody to do that? And the answer is no, most definitely no. It's our life. We went through this, during COVID with the masks and the no masks and wear this and wear that. To me, it's a choice. And, that's the individual's the one that needs to make that choice, not the government, not law enforcement, not the sheriff's office. You can take those suggestions and, hey, if you want to do this, we helped during the COVID shots that were taking place. Law enforcement was part of that, but nobody was forced to take those shots. They voluntarily came through, went through line, and we directed traffic and allowed that to take place. So, no, I have 2 minutes, but to me that's kind of a quick, easy question to answer. So,
Darren, if the state or federal government imposes a vaccine requirement on Williamson County citizens, how would you respond as sheriff to that mandate?
I would make everybody take the flu shot. No, I'm just kidding. So, that 2 minutes is a lot for that question. No, it's like Mark said, it's a personal choice. I'm not going to judge somebody that wants to get the vaccine, and if they don't, then that's fine too. It's kind of like with the whole mask stuff. But anyway, I don't think that I know I wouldn't, when elected sheriff, if they tried it, I wouldn't hold it against my employees. If they wanted to get it, they could. If they didn't have to, or they wouldn't have to. And I'm trying to stretch this out, but I just can't do it anymore.
You don't have to.
we'll give you the extra time.
Jeff, you now have a total of 5 minutes.
They have deferred their time to me.
Yeah.
And like the old game show, name that tune, I can name this in one note. No.
Very good.
No, I absolutely would not require or stand with anyone that tried to force a mandate like that on the Sheriff's Department employees. I think it's a personal choice. Same with the mask mandate. Absolutely not. That we've learned from that. I led an organization through a pandemic. I know what that's like. Absolutely not.
Very good. Darren, what is your opinion of the trend nationally to decriminalize low-level criminal offenses?
I think you should be careful what you ask for. I think that it's kind of like the broken windows theory, if you're familiar with that. I know we haven't done it here in Tennessee, I don't think, for the most part, but I know that other states have, and I see what's happening to these other states. And honestly, I'm glad I live in my state. I think it's a bad idea to do that. And I don't know, unless you say something specific. That's a hard question to answer without any kind of specific crimes or whatever. So I don't think it's a good idea for the most part.
Jeff, what is your opinion of the trend nationally to decriminalize low-level criminal offenses?
I disagree with it. I think it's setting a bad precedent. I don't think that you got to have a standard, and the law is the standard, right? And if we're going to water that down and we're going to weaken that, then they're just going to take advantage of the next more serious offense. Totally disagree with it.
Mark, what is your opinion of the trend nationally to decriminalize low-level criminal offenses?
I think it goes to, our gun-free zones in other states. Chicago comes to mind right off the bat. How well is that working with their murder rate, and citizens cannot be armed there. It's not a good idea. Just, if I remember growing up that, my dad would always tell me, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Do what's right. And if there wasn't any punishment there for that, what kind of trouble would all of us have gotten in had we not known what the outcome was going to be? And to water down the justice system, we've seen what's happened in other states. We've seen what's happened in other places. It's just all around not a good idea. We can go back to, Colorado and their drug laws and how that has affected that, their economy and their state. And like I said, once again, look at Chicago. How well is it working for them?
Jeff, is there an issue in Williamson County concerning illegal aliens?
Well, I'm assuming you're talking about illegal immigrants, and the answer is yes. I don't think you're talking about ET necessarily, but
I'm not sure. It's their question.
oh, okay. You didn't write that question, John. Absolutely, there's a problem with it. I heard. I was at a meeting earlier today, and I heard that several hundred illegal immigrants were dropped off in Franklin. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm seeing some head shakes out there. That's what we're dealing with, folks. And this is a federal issue. Local law enforcement does not have the authority to take any action against these folks if they don't commit a crime. Now, there are several bills that are before legislature right now, 2 House bills and a Senate bill that pertain to illegal immigration, and we need to get behind those bills and support them. But yes, it's a problem, and we've got to address it.
Mark, is there an issue in Williamson County concerning illegal immigrants?
I think there has been in Williamson County for a number of years. I'll go back, 15, 18 years with, or maybe even longer, with illegals here in the county. At one point in time, the state of Tennessee was, just allowing driver's license to anybody that came in. So it's not a new situation. It's something that we've always had. Unfortunately, it is on the federal level. It's not so much a county. I mean, we have to deal with it. We have to work with our federal partners when it comes to those. But, I know from experience lots of times, we've had, reasons to call in immigration to come in and pick people up. And if you don't have the high enough number, they won't even come see you. So it's one of those things that, once again, we as a group of citizens need to work together, with the state, with the feds, and make the right decisions, get the right people there to do the job. So.
Darren, is there an issue in Williamson County concerning illegal immigrants?
As far as crime is concerned, I don't think so. But yeah, it is an issue. And yes, there was more than 500 immigrants that were bused here, and they were dropped off at a hotel in Cool Springs. That's true. That is a tough topic because I know I have my personal opinions on that. But at the same time, we are required to enforce the law. And that's on the books. But it is going to take a collaborative effort. I would be more concerned at this point about what happened today, about what the mayor and the Board of Aldermen and the county commission and the county mayor are doing. Because as far as I know, and I could be wrong, I don't think that we were really given a heads up that this was going to happen, which is a problem.
In recent years, the U.S. has experienced major civil unrest, and in many cases, law enforcement has borne the brunt with defunding efforts. Mark, how best could you as sheriff mitigate unrest in the community and calls for defunding in your jurisdiction?
I want to start off on the defunding portion of that, and I have to give a shout out to our county commissioners as a whole across the county. They are more than supportive with our sheriff's office when it comes to things within reason. That they gladly support that. When it comes to the civil unrest, and I've had the opportunity to speak with some of the groups in the past here that have came into Williamson County for whatever reason, and each side wants the other side to agree with their thoughts process, to agree with what they want, and we all know at the end of the day that neither side is going to agree. So what is the answer to that? I don't know that I have one. I don't know what that answer would be, other than, starting that dialogue. I know when we had issues in 2020, there was a lot of dialogue that went in with both sides, laying out what the processes were going to be, what the rules were going to be, and how that was going to play out. And I think that worked well for us. So just getting dialogue started.
Darren, how best can you, as sheriff, mitigate unrest in the community and calls for defunding in your jurisdiction?
That is a difficult question, only because I think, from what I've seen, all that's absurd. I'll go back to what I was saying earlier. The best thing that we can do is we can train. We need to better prepare ourselves for those type incidents. I would like to start a crowd control and riot control unit that trains once a month, once every other month. I'd like to include the other cities in the county. Honestly, I'd like to send some of our guys that are part of this group up to the state capitol and work with the troopers and train with some of those people that have some of these protesters get in their face and tell them that, they're going to kill their family members, or they're going to, just do horrible things to them and just demean them. We've got to be able to deal with something like that happens, because they don't have to get a permit to come in our city or our county and protest or demonstrate.
Thank you. Jeff, how can you best, as sheriff, mitigate unrest in the community and calls for defunding in your jurisdiction?
Well, I think we can look around the country nationally and see how the defund the police philosophy worked out. Not too good, right? They backpedaled, and I don't think they hold the same beliefs that they once held, right? You don't hear as much talk about that anymore because it was a disaster. But as the sheriff of Williamson County, I would want people to engage in constitutionally protected activities, okay? But if you come here to do do bad things, if you come here to destruct, you come here to burn, you come here to do things that are not permissible through permits or through or provided in the right time and place, then you're coming to the wrong place. And the sheriff has to take a stand and be prepared, be well trained to take action when we have civil unrest.
Darren, how would you manage accusations of officer misconduct?
Well, they would be obviously investigated, and the best way to do that is through transparency. Misconduct is something that should be taken seriously. Law enforcement, we already are behind the curve with so many things, and integrity has got to be up there. I mean, we have to be morally, right, or our integrity has to be high, I guess to say. But no, I mean, you have to deal with the wrongdoing. People have to be held accountable. And then the ones that are unfounded or where citizens have lied on the officers, they should be arrested and prosecuted.
Jeff, how would you manage accusations of officer misconduct?
Integrity and accountability is paramount. And yes, transparency is very important. But there are best practices and there are standards through accreditation processes that guide law enforcement through internal investigations. And these are through entities like CALEA, the Commission on Accredited Law Enforcement Agencies internationally. Brentwood was an internationally accredited law enforcement agency, and so there are best practices in place to ensure that you have policies and that you have procedures in place and how you conduct those internal investigations. I believe in fairness and consistency. I believe in transparency. I believe in accountability. And I believe that every formal complaint should be investigated thoroughly. And you've got to communicate that not only to the person that's accused, but you've got to communicate that to the person that's filing the complaint and keep them well informed at all times.
Mark, how would you manage accusations of officer misconduct?
Through policies and procedures that are in place when a complaint like that is made, with the sheriff's office, we follow that policy. Those complaints are investigated, they're looked at. There's always two sides to every story. And, by following those policies and procedures with that internal investigation, we have depending on what the complaint is, we have an ombudsman that handles a lot of those complaints when they do come in. And, it's all about transparency. It's about, if you've done something wrong, that, you're going to suffer the consequences of that. And, like Darren said, if it's the other side where the officer is found, not guilty of whatever that person is accused of, then, we're going to take a look at, what that false report was. It's unfortunate, and I tell people quite often in interviews that, what you do wrong as a law enforcement officer not only affects you, but it affects everybody around you, every agency across the nation.
Jeff, rolling around to a topic that I am versed in, Second Amendment. Presently in the General Assembly, the legislature is considering a bill that would eliminate the requirements for a permit and would also expand the ability of citizens to carry not only handguns but long arms. How do you feel about that proposed legislation?
Well, I was prepared for this question. I kind of thought it might come up, John. I'm a firm believer in the Constitution, including the people's right to keep and bear arms. I believe that a well-trained, armed citizenry makes our community safer. As the Sheriff of Williamson County, I propose to enhance a citizen's ability to exercise their right to permitless carry, not restrict it. Law enforcement officers must train relentlessly to achieve high proficiency with the weapons that they carry. Malfunctions and downrange and crossfire assessments, adrenaline management, and de-escalation techniques. You must constantly practice on these things. It would be catastrophic and heartbreaking if an innocent citizen stops a threat, but finds himself mistakenly deemed a threat when officers arrive on the scene and they're still holding a gun. My intent is to open dialogue to find solutions.
Mark, what would your opinion be on legislation that would eliminate the requirement for a permit and allow citizens to carry any category of firearm?
As I spoke earlier on one of the previous questions, a firm believer in the Second Amendment. I think that, throughout my career, I've always assumed that everybody had a gun, regardless if it was legal or not. And with the change in the law, I haven't seen any issues come up in Williamson County, and I haven't heard of many across the state to where with the enhanced part of the law currently has been an issue. If you can legally own it, you can legally carry it, why not provide that to our citizenry? It's, when you need help, a cop's 2 minutes away. And, you can do a whole lot yourself, with that proper training. I always think that training is a big part of it. And I'd say if I had a concern about, the permitless part of that, the one thing that the permit did bring into play was that training. I think training is important, but I don't think it necessarily has to be a law. There's a lot of training that people can get out on the streets to be able to make themselves safe and effective.
Darren, how would you feel about proposed legislation that would eliminate the requirement for a permit and allow citizens to carry any category of firearm?
So I kind of touched on this earlier, and we can rewind that, listen to what I said. But no, I'm fine with it. And I'll tell you, I've always been that way. Back when I was a young patrol guy, we would have people all the time tell us that, well, I've got a permit and I've got a gun in the car. I never understood why people that taught these classes had people tell us that. If you got a permit and you got the gun, I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about the guy that has it shoved down the front of his pants and he wants to try to hurt me. So as far as just the average citizen or, if you own a gun, then I don't know, it just doesn't bother me at all. I'm fine with it. I just think we need to train our police officers, like Jeff was saying, how to deal with recognition, so we don't get hurt, because we have to be held accountable just like people that carry guns have to be held accountable.
So, gentlemen, to your great relief, that's the last structured question that I have tonight. So you're each going to have 2 minutes to give closing remarks. And using the rotation that I've been using, I'm going to start first with Mark. You have 2 minutes for closing remarks.
Whole 2 minutes. When I think about the sheriff's race, it's been difficult, I think, for the three of us. We've all worked together for a number of years and have known each other. I'm going to talk about myself. One thing that I bring to the table is experience within the sheriff's office. I have worked from the jail through patrol, through other aspects of the agency as instructors, as an instructor in active shooter training. One of the first active shooter drills that took place in Williamson County, which involved all the agencies within Williamson County. I got that kicked off and started off the ground. I had other people helping me, but the weight of that fell on my shoulders. I know our county. I know our men and women that work within the sheriff's office. We have very good people that are there. Coming up through the ranks, I've worked for 4 different sheriffs. I know what works. I've seen what doesn't work. I think moving forward, I'm my own person, and it's a lot different in a sheriff's office than it is in a police agency, just by the duties of that office and the things that take place. The jail is our largest liability. I've made the joke a lot of times, if it weren't for the jail, I'd have a pretty easy job. But it's tough, staying on top of all of that stuff and knowing what is going on within the agency. When you have 332 employees in the sworn part of doing the job, it's a lot of responsibility. Now, the sheriff doesn't shoulder all that responsibility. There's other people there, but at the end of the day, it's the sheriff that makes sure that things are done properly and done the way that they are. So,
Thank you. Darren, 2 minutes. Closing remarks.
So I agree with what Mark said earlier. The sheriff's office, and it is an office, has some great employees. However, I don't think all the employees have been treated fairly over time. I know that Sheriff Rhodes, a year or two ago, gave all the sworn employees a pretty good raise, and I appreciate it because I'm one of the sworn employees. However, the support staff or the civilian employees still, I don't think, have gotten a raise. So that's one thing that I want to change in the culture is I want to treat people the way they should be treated. I want to train people to take my place because I'm not going to do this forever. I've got probably about 10 more years in me, God willing. We've got to train the younger generation to be the leaders of tomorrow. Managers don't make great leaders. Everybody up here has their own certain set of skills and experiences. I can surround myself with people that have the knowledge to help me move forward and to help the sheriff's office be at a place where it needs to be, which in my opinion is the best office in the state of Tennessee. Through my experience with the task force, I've investigated a lot of mass casualty and some pretty serious things. I'm going to bring that experience with me. That's what sets me apart from the other two candidates. I can learn what they do, but they can't necessarily learn what I've done and what I've experienced. So I want to take the good old boy system out of the sheriff's office, and I want to make it a place where people want to come and work.
Thank you. Jeff, 2 minutes for, 2 minutes for
Thank you.
closing statements.
First and foremost, I want to thank Darren. I want to thank Mark. Only they know what it's been like on us to this point out here trying to campaign in such a constricted time period. These are my peers, okay? We're on the same team. We want the same things. We want what's best for Williamson County. These guys are my friends, okay? I want to thank the Williamson County GOP for hosting this. I want to thank you, John, for moderating it. I want to thank the people here. These are concerned folks that are really wanting what's best for Williamson County, right? I want to thank the people that are watching online. Williamson County needs a proven and tested leadership. The biggest element of that is experience. My 10 years experience as a chief of police has prepared me well, and I'm ready, willing, and able to serve the citizens of Williamson County. From the construction of a state-of-the-art building to working within a multi-million-dollar budget, I have a clear plan. Protect communities from violent crimes and drugs, ensure kids are safe in Williamson County schools, protect our constitutional freedoms, especially the Second Amendment, increase cooperation with city, state, and federal partners, recruit highly qualified deputies on the street, in the schools, and in the jail through a strenuous selection process, not just hiring warm bodies, and maintain financial priorities to ensure that the Sheriff's Department continues to operate within budget. I hope you all will exercise your right to vote for our next sheriff. I would encourage you to go to my website, hughesforsheriff.com, and follow us on Facebook, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Jeff, Mark, and Darren for being here tonight and taking these rather unexpected and difficult questions. I'd like to thank the audience for not clapping and creating distractions during their presentations. Again, if you've got celebratory gunfire, do it outside. And I'd like to thank Tracy and the GOP for having me come down and act as a moderator tonight. And I'll turn it back over to Tracy Miller for closeout and adjournment.
Great group of guys, isn't it? Be careful on your drive home, and thank you for taking an active interest in what goes on in Williamson County. And come to our mix and mingles, come to our events, and we'll try to get you as much information about as many candidates and as many races as possible. God bless.
That's a wrap.